But yeah, this is basically Claude working through the final bits of a very basic, very simplistic app build out that would give you a cross-platform application that started life as an Excel model, but now you want to be able to really like turbocharge your users. And so rather than give them a model that is standalone, that only updates every so often, what you're trying to give them is an application that is specific to their use case, is tailored to their needs. You know, in reality, we would sit down and work as a product team to figure out exactly what that application is supposed to look like, how it's supposed to behave, how the users would work with it, and then how we would build that application into something that really drives value to your organization. That is the type of product build out that we always work through, because just showing a dashboard as this thing is going to pop up on the screen is not the answer to most data consumption issues. What we want to be able to figure out is how to really allow value from, or prove value from that data, rather than just showing the data. So it may be that the app in reality did more than just showing some numbers on a screen. You could also integrate it into workflows, your customer end, to really allow for them to be able to leverage the data that you are, in the process of selling them effectively. So where have we got to? He's working through the code reviews still. So we're not far away. As you can see, he's been working for 42 minutes. Now, if you built this using a different framework, if you built this purely using a web app technology, for example, it would have been far quicker. This is definitely a slower way of being able to deal with the development of these things. But in reality, that is the best way to be able to do it if you want to be able to deal with cross-platform applications. There are a number of different cross-platform applications that really allow for you to be able to build, either native apps, because again, you've got a bit of a shim going on here, but you might want to build something that's basically just a thin wrap around a website, cheap, quick, effective. But you might also want to build something that feels and acts far more like a polished application that has all the elements of an iPhone user, what they would come to expect. And so depending on what you need in terms of output, and, there's also a trade-off with cost, price, builder time, all those types of things. And whether or not you want to just focus on just a web app, or if you just want to focus on iOS, or if you want to have an Android specific app, these are the types of decisions that you make at the start that allow for, working out what direction you take, because you don't want to necessarily get down a route that builds yourself into a corner. And so by doing this, and allowing for this type of product development to happen at the start, that's the type of stuff that will allow you to work out where you want to go, what you want to do with it, and not build a bunch of stuff and then realize you've gone the wrong direction. Yeah. So that's the type of stuff as we go through it, you end up building towards. Let's have a look. Let's go back here. And so just from a project perspective, if I make this a bit bigger, you can see what Claude's gone and done here as well. So from a product perspective, it's built out a number of different folders, which obviously contain various bits of application-specific code. So inside of the web version, you've got an index, you've then got some icons, you've got the test fixtures. We haven't given Claude any great guidance. This was by design. I want to prove out that you can go and build this stuff without doing too much to affect it. But like I said, you definitely wouldn't take this to a production environment. But inside of lib, you've got providers, you've got a Seku config type area, features for the dashboard, so you see these Dart files, and then you've got different bits of runners, iOS stuff. So if we have a look just for, having a nose around, if we have a look at lib, features, dashboard, dashboard screen.dart. So the Dart file is the bit that makes it cross-platform, because the stuff in here ends up getting compiled then for each environment. So you've got Scaffold, you've got an app bar widget, which has been defined somewhere. I assumed it would be at the top, but maybe it's not. You've got the app bar, then you've got the body of that widget, you've got boxes, various bits that go with it. And then you've got this KPI summary. And so, these are the bits that get pulled in from the different widgets that have been built out to support the object-oriented design of all of this. Okay, what's he doing? He's trying to launch it. Cause is not enabled on Seku. The pre-flight options return 403, so a browser would block Flutter web app from calling Seku cross-origin. The clean fix for a live web demo is the same origin serve. The Flutter behind the reverse boxes. Okay. So he's working on that. Web build succeeded. Because we've got two different web services, they come from different places. Now, we could change Seku to match it. Basically, what he's done, though, is stick another small web service, a little bit like it was doing with the Excel one, sticks that over the front to be able to then service up. So localhost 9099, let's give it a go. There we go. I told you it would look like garbage. That is not a surprise, because we gave him absolutely nothing to look into. The web app is live, 9099. Chrome extension isn't installed. That's fine. So this is the data coming from the Seku server now being displayed using a cross-platform Dart web app, and then that would then allow for you to also be able to do this inside of iOS device. Let's see if we can ask him. Can we do this in the iOS? He may tell me that this is impossible, but it'd be interesting to see if we can just spin up the iOS version of this just to show the sort of cross-platform aspect. Like I said, having given Claude absolutely zero guidance, he's never going to build anything that looks particularly useful. It's not particularly interactive. The top boxes they do sort of work, but they're too tall, it seems. Yeah, there we go. If I scroll, they appear in the screen. So, there's a whole bunch of stuff that he has not done properly, and you would then go and clean up. He's going to start the iOS simulator. We'll see if that works. Yeah, but again, so the user inside of Excel, the user inside of this dashboard, the user inside of the Seku Analytics, and the user using the LLM directly with Seku as a model, then really see the same data from the same place. Now, they might create different queries and get different answers, but basically it's the same stuff on every screen. So if I go back to, I've still got the tab open. Yeah, if I go back here, the same data. We've taken it from that Excel spreadsheet. We've put it into a OLAP cube inside of Postgres. And now we're being able to load this in a multitude of different places. And it appears that Claude is going to try and launch this using the iPhone emulator. And we will see what happens on the screen once he does. Simulator is booted. Now build and launch the app on it with the dev config. And we shall see. So first iOS build includes CocoaPods and Xcode complications, so it takes a few minutes running in the background. The build is running. Okay, whilst that's running, we'll just go back to looking at what we're looking at. So, yeah, we've gone from an Excel spreadsheet, standalone, to a analytics environment where we can run the comparisons and do interactive analytics. We've got Seku then also giving us access to Excel models to be able to then show that stuff inside of Excel. And now we've got, a rather crusty looking but functioning web application that allows us to be able to then look at exactly the same data with exactly the same model. And once he finally gets there, he will then deploy the application into the iOS device, and then you can run the application using iOS as well. And this really is the flexibility of what we try and do as an organization and why we try and build these things, because allowing all these types of data accesses takes a lot of thought, planning, and effort that, but at the same time reduces the total cost of ownership of that data inside and outside of your organization. So there you go. That's basically it. Like I said, I wouldn't build this application and ship it, not only because it looks bad, but because also it will not be secure. Deploying Seku inside of an organization is also something that takes time and effort if you were going to take that route. But of course, there are many different platforms that do similar things. So, it's worth taking a look at whilst he still works through this iOS install. Are we going to get there? I want to keep going until he actually loads the thing up, because that would be cool. But yeah, obviously from a product perspective, from a platform perspective, serving the same data consistently and securely across an organization is imperative, because especially in the modern era of the supply chain hijacks and all the things going on that cause issues inside of an organization from an InfoSec and security perspective, that is something that is going to take, effort to manage, effort to deal with on a day-to-day basis. And so, as an organization, trying to unify and standardize your data access, your data security, and your data organization is something that, takes time and effort. Apparently I have to go and download iOS simulator. So I'm not going to do that. He is trying to build the Mac OS version. We won't hang around for that. I want to say thank you to anybody who's popped in today, come to say hello, paid any attention to my ramblings for the last few hours, because, like I said, there wasn't much of a plan. I hope that some of this has been useful. And that you've learnt a few things. If you need any help, support, guidance, whatever, you can find everything about us over on our spiffing looking website at conceptcloud.com, where we showcase some of our services, the projects that we've worked on, some of the cool stuff that we do as a company. I'll tell you what, look at this. I will flip back and show you this one. If I go back to screen share, there we go. So this is the OS X native version. And again, if I downloaded the iOS version, this is my point. You get to use the same application across a bunch of different work surfaces. And so this one, if I package that up, would be a iOS downloadable. That would allow for a user to then be able to interact with that application as if it was built for OS X. So anyway, as I was saying, having got through that, if you want to be able to get some help, support, or find out more about what we do as an organization and how we can support your organization, you can go to conceptcloud.com and you will find a lot of stuff about what we do, how we do it, some of the projects we've worked on, some of the more interesting bits, and also the services that we can provide to you. And that is that. Thank you very much for tuning in. It's been an interesting few hours. I hope you've seen how we can like go from almost nothing to a deployed product, a deployed analytics environment in reasonably short order. Yes, I tuned the data to make it work for this example, but you get the idea. And how to help with regulated data support and delivery in a world that an environment that obviously lends itself to putting a bunch of thought, time, and effort into that, because who knows where your data is going to end up if you're not careful about it. Okay, my name is Tom. Thank you very much again. I will speak to you all